Jay-Z set Michael up. That's the line people are now pinning to Janet Jackson, saying she called out Jay directly for moving. Whether that exact quote is fair or not, the claim is loud. Janet points past the doctor and toward industry power, suggesting Michael wasn't just competing. Here's where we go from there. On paper, the case that ended Michael's life names Conrad Murray and a lethal medical decision. But the internet won't let go of a bigger story. Publishing power worth hundreds of millions, backroom alliances, access tightened around. Tonight we put that theory under a microscope. What Janet actually said, what's confirmed, what's just repeated, and why so many fans still believe someone. No fluff, just the timeline, the money, the motive people talk about, and the gaps that keep this fire burning. The allegation lives in a few core talking points you've seen 100 times. Michael's publishing power made him a target. Industry players wanted control back. Access around him tightened, and moguls, with Jay-Z named most, were moving pieces in the background. In this telling, the setup isn't one explosive night. It's a slow chess game. Who gets close, who gets cut out, and how the public's creators drawing arrows between clips. Old interviews of MJ talking publishing, overlaid with timelines of deals, and comment sections chanting, "The beats are addictive. Big motive, bigger villain, perfect timing," and the edit makes it look inevitable. A legend doesn't just fall, he's pushed. The theory gives a cleaner story than a messy medical mistake ever could. Jay-Z sits at the center of this narrative because his rise mirrors the moment fans say the walls closed in around Michael. The montage lines up stage cameos, shared rooms, and handshakes, then fast cuts to boardroom headlines with Jay's name on them. It points to his proximity to majors, his pivot from superstar to power broker, and his seat at tables where catalog decisions get made. The more influence he appears to gain, the more the theory insists that influence came at Michael's expense. Edits lean on repetition. A clip of Jay-Z at a summer event. Jay-Z ascends as Michael's circle contracts. Viewers are nudged, security changing, narratives hardening, microphones going quiet. And to read all of it, algorithms supercharge the feeling. One video lays the groundwork, the next amplifies it, a third adds a rumor about tightened access, and suddenly the recommendation feed looks like a wall of agreement. The larger the echo, the more natural it feels to repeat the line at the heart of it. Jay-Z set MJ up. That sentence promises a villain with reach, a motive worth billions, and a reason the ending felt too small for a king. Every small inconsistency becomes a clue in the collage. If a call didn't go where fans think it should have, the theory says someone else was pulling strings. If the press tone shifts, it gets framed as a narrative being managed. If a contract changes hands years later, it's held up as the payoff. What keeps this version sticky is how neatly it ties motive, means, and timing to a single name. Jay-Z is the face of modern music power, the person most viewers picture when they hear the attach him to Michael's final chapter, and the story scales instantly. It feels big enough. It feels like the kind of chess only the few can play. June 25th, 2009, Los Angeles. Paramedics are called to Michael's Holmby Hills home. The coroner rules acute propofol intoxication. In 2011, a jury convicts Dr. Conrad Murray of involuntary manslaughter for giving a hospital-grade anesthetic in a private bedroom without proper monitoring and for a delayed emergency response. That's not online gossip, that's a court record. The law's answer, a lethal medical decision by a physician in the wrong setting, followed by choices that cost time Michael didn't have. Janet Jackson's own early statements were blunt. She blamed Murray as the one administering the drug. That shaped global perception. The doctor was the center of the fatal night, full stop. But even with a conviction, fans kept staring at the edges. Who else was in the room? Who got called first? What moved before 9/11, and why? Those gaps became the oxygen for bigger theories. And that's where motive, real or imagined, steps in. The Jay-Z setup claim leans hard on Michael's business weight. In 1985, MJ didn't just buy songs, he bought ATV Music, home of the Beatles catalog, and thousands more. 10 years later, he merged with Sony's publishing arm to create Sony/ATV, keeping a 50% stake. Translation: Michael wasn't just the king of pop, he sat inside the boardroom. Publishing is the music business endgame. Licensing power, leverage in negotiations, and income for decades. Owning those rights made Michael a unicorn, an artist who controlled the very thing labels love most. From there, the theory writes itself. They wanted it back. They becomes whoever the storyteller needs. Corporations, executives, gatekeepers, or the moguls being blamed online. Add in the very real history of black artists being underpaid and exploited, and it's not hard to see why audiences accept the idea that someone, maybe Jay-Z, would move to neutralize the ultimate power player. So does that automatically point to Jay-Z? Not by itself, but it sets the motive template people keep filling with names. But motive without mechanics is just a story, so believers turn to the final day's details. Inside the house that morning, the timeline became a magnet for suspicion. Testimony in court described CPR in the bedroom, a 911 call later than people expected, and confusion around medicine vials in the room. A head of security testified about what he saw, A frantic doctor, a scene already complicated. Those details mattered for the verdict. And they also fed what the internet thrives on: ambiguity. Any step that wasn't textbook, any delay, any object moved, any call made to the wrong person first, gets reinterpreted online as a signal of a larger plot. This is how the allegation expands from one doctor's negligence to multiple actors. A rumor doesn't need evidence, it needs emotion, plus a timeline hiccup. If the first call wasn't 911, some viewers don't ask why, they ask who benefits. And once a theory starts asking that question, it rarely stops. But even the greatest conspiracies need characters, and that's how Jay-Z walks into the frame. The claim ties Jay-Z to Michael's final chapter by arguing that MJ's catalog power put a target on his back and that a small circle of industry kingmakers wanted the leverage he held. In this telling, Jay-Z isn't just a rival, he's the strategist who edges closer to Michael's orbit, gains influence through public moments and private relationships, and appears to benefit as access around MJ tightens. Video essays stitch together old stage cameos, later business headlines, and shifts in security and gatekeeping to paint a picture of isolation, of first phone calls going to the wrong people, of press narratives that feel steered instead of spontaneous. On screen, it plays like a thriller, a legend holding rights worth hundreds of millions, a mogul rising as the room around that legend gets smaller, and a timeline that seems to reward those outside the blast radius when the sirens fade. That is the engine driving the line viewers keep repeating. Jay-Z set MJ up. But when you pause the montage and look for hard proof, the frame shakes. There is no verdict naming Jay-Z, no sworn testimony placing him at the center of a plan, no document that turns suspicion into evidence. What remains is a tragic medical failure on paper, and around it, a pattern of power, timing, and coincidence that feels larger than the official story. If you already believe there was a chessboard, every coincidence looks like a move. If you believe in receipts, you're still waiting for the piece that turns a compelling edit into a case. Go back to 1993. LaToya Jackson stood in front of cameras and said explosive things about her brother. Years later, she took it back, saying she was controlled and abused by her husband at the time, and pushed to say what she did. That swing is why old clips keep getting recycled. One day you see LaToya accusing, the next you see LaToya apologizing. Online, those mixed moments get cut together and used as fresh fuel. Add in memories of Michael calling out powerful record executives and Janet talking about people around him having too much control, and a messy family and industry history starts to look like a single, clean plot. Here's the simpler truth. The 90s drama and the 2009 tragedy are different chapters that people keep stapling into one story. It makes the theory feel bigger, but it doesn't change what the court decided about Michael's death. A doctor made lethal choices in a private setting. That is the part with paperwork behind it. Everything else is emotion, old wounds, and clips that lose context once they are chopped into a timeline that tells the internet the ending it wants. This is where the theory zooms in on Jay-Z's moves and reads them like clues. Viewers line up his rise into boardrooms, the partnerships that put him next to major labels, and the way his influence grew in the 2000s and 2010s. Then they hold that timeline against Michael's final years and say the pattern looks too convenient. Old footage of Michael and Jay on the same stage becomes a starting point. Later, as excess around Michael shrinks and the press turns harsher, the conspiracy edit treats Jay's momentum as proof that someone else's light had to dim for his to get brighter. The story suggests he wasn't just succeeding, he was positioned to benefit as Michael's circle got tighter and the narrative around him got darker. That is the heartbeat of the setup claim. But here's what's still missing when you strip the drama out: direct evidence. Business wins after 2009 do not prove a plot before 2009. Powerful relationships in music explain access, not intent. If someone has receipts that tie Jay-Z to decisions inside Michael's house or medical choices in that room, they haven't shown them. Until they do, what you're looking at is a timeline that feels persuasive because the dots are big and the names are bigger, not because the line between them has been proven. The claim hits hard because it feels like a clean answer to a messy loss. Michael held rare power through his catalog and business leverage. Jay-Z rose into the boardrooms at the same time, turning artist clout into executive pull. After Michael passed, headlines kept coming about new deals, new partnerships, and shifting control of music rights. Laid out in a quick timeline, it looks like a door closed for one legend and opened wider for another. That picture is simple, dramatic, and easy to repeat. Online, simple and dramatic spreads fastest. Short clips show tight security, a delayed call, a tense quote from a family member, and a business headline that lands right after. Creators add voiceover about power plays and whisper networks. Comments start echoing the same line until it sounds like the only explanation. The platform rewards certainty, not caution, so every repetition makes the theory feel heavier than the facts underneath it. There's also real history feeding the belief. Music has a long record of exploiting black artists, and fans know it. When they see a star who actually owned valuable rights, they assume enemies were close. Jay-Z, as the most visible mogul of his era, becomes the face people point to. Big name, big motive, big payoff. It fits the mood even if the evidence is thin. Viewers are matching the size of the villain to the size of the icon. because a small mistake in a quiet room doesn't feel big enough for Michael Jackson. But a clean storyline is not the same thing as proof. There are no messages or sworn statements showing Jay-Z directing access to Michael, controlling his medical care, or ordering anyone's movements. What exists is timing, coincidence, and edits that play like a thriller. That doesn't mean fans are foolish, it means grief and suspicion fill gaps the official record leaves open. Until someone produces concrete evidence that connects Jay-Z to a plan against Michael, Jay-Z set MJ up remains a powerful claim built on belief, pattern spotting, and momentum, not on confirmed facts. Two timelines run side by side. In the first, the official one, propofol, bad medicine in the wrong setting, and Conrad Murray's conviction tell a complete tragedy. In the second, the internet's catalog power, industry beef, and post-2009 deals get stacked into a ladder that reaches one conclusion: Jay-Z set MJ up. As of today, the second timeline hasn't produced proof strong enough to replace the first. You can believe the music business is ruthless. The history supports that. And still accept that what ended Michael's life was a doctor's negligence, not a mogul's plan. Your turn. Was Michael set up, or is this grief and coincidence stitched together? Share one specific receipt, date, quote, or source, or the exact moment in the timeline that changed your mind. Keep it respectful and stick to facts, not attacks. Until real receipts surface, the fairest way to say this is simple. The Jay-Z setup remains an allegation. Powerful to imagine, easy to share, but unproven. The king of pop deserves clarity. So do the fans.